Hello and welcome to our channel. We are so happy to have you here with us. If you're looking to improve your English speaking skills and gain more confidence, you've come to the right place. Whether you're just starting out or already at an intermediate level, we're here to guide you with practical tips, fun lessons, and real-life examples to help you speak English like a pro.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's podcast. We're so excited to have you with us as we dive into some really important topics about learning English. Whether you're at an elementary or intermediate level, this is the perfect place for you to improve your speaking and listening skills. Thank you so much for joining us today. Your time is truly valuable, and we appreciate you being here. I'm Agnes, and I'm really thrilled to be here with my co-host. Jasper, why don't you introduce yourself too?
Hi everyone, I'm Jasper. I'm also really excited to be part of today's conversation. We're going to have a lot of fun as we explore how to speak and listen fluently in English.
Exactly. And speaking of today's conversation, let's dive into the topic. We're going to talk about something very special, how to speak and listen fluently in English. I know that sounds really interesting, right? I'm sure many of you are thinking, how can I sound more fluent? Or how can I understand English better when people speak to me? Well, today we're going to answer those questions and we'll share some helpful tips along the way.
Yes, fluency is such an exciting goal for anyone learning a language. But what does it actually mean to be fluent in English? Is it just about speaking fast? Or is it more about being confident and clear in your words? That's what we're going to talk about today. And trust me, it's not just about learning grammar or vocabulary, although those things are important too. It's really about practicing the right skills, and today we'll give you some tools to help you with that.
Absolutely. Fluency isn't just about saying words quickly. It's about understanding others easily and expressing yourself in a natural way. So, think of today as a mini guide to becoming more comfortable and confident when speaking and listening in English. If you've ever felt nervous when speaking with others, or if you have trouble understanding what people are saying, don't worry, this podcast is just for you. You'll walk away with a better understanding of how to improve both skills.
And let's not forget how important listening is. Some people focus only on speaking and forget that listening is a big part of fluency too. When we understand what others are saying, it becomes easier to reply, right? It's like a team effort. Speaking and listening work together. So today, we'll give you some fun, practical ways to improve both skills.
Exactly. And I want to take a moment to thank everyone who's watching this podcast. We're so happy that you're here, and we truly hope that what we talk about today will help you grow in your English journey. You're putting in the effort to learn and improve, and that's something to be proud of. We're here to support you every step of the way.
So, let's get started. Let's talk about the first step in becoming fluent in English: understanding the importance of practice. Practice is the key to anything we want to get better at, right? Whether it's playing a sport, learning an instrument, or speaking English, you have to practice, and you need to practice the right way. But what does that mean for us as language learners?
Well, for starters, it's important to practice regularly. If you want to speak English more fluently, you need to speak as much as possible. Even if you make mistakes, that's totally okay. The more you speak, the more you learn. One way to practice is by finding language partners, someone to talk to in English. It could be a friend, a teacher, or even someone you meet online who's also learning English.
That's a great point, Agnes. But what if you're not in a place where you can find a language partner? Well, the good news is there are other ways to practice, too. One method that can help a lot is speaking to yourself in English. I know it might sound a little strange at first, but it really works. You can talk to yourself about your day, describe things around you, or even repeat sentences from movies or shows you like. The more you do it, the more natural it will feel.
Yes, speaking to yourself is actually a very powerful tool. You're building your confidence and practicing your vocabulary at the same time. Another way to practice speaking is by listening to English audio, whether it's a podcast like this one, an audiobook, or even YouTube videos. The more you hear English, the easier it will be to pick up new phrases and sounds.
And don't forget about shadowing. Shadowing means repeating what you hear, right after you hear it. This helps you with pronunciation, rhythm, and understanding the flow of conversation. You can shadow TV shows, podcasts, or even YouTube videos. It's a fun way to get better at speaking while also improving your listening skills.
Exactly. So, we've talked about the importance of practice and how it can really help you improve. The key takeaway here is that you don't need to wait for the perfect moment to speak. Start practicing as soon as you can. Speak with confidence, make mistakes, and learn from them. That's how you'll improve.
Absolutely. And while practicing speaking is important, we can't forget about listening. You can practice listening in so many ways by watching movies or shows in English, listening to podcasts, or even reading out loud. All of these activities can help you get used to the sounds of English and improve your understanding.
And that's the first step in the journey to fluency practice. Practice, practice. We hope you're feeling inspired to start practicing more regularly. You're already taking the right steps by listening to this podcast, and we're excited to be part of your English learning journey. Keep going, and remember, every little bit of practice counts. Thanks, Jasper, for those wonderful tips. So, now that we've discussed the importance of practice, let's dive deeper into how you can practice more effectively to improve both your speaking and listening skills. As we mentioned earlier, it's not just about speaking fast or understanding every word perfectly. The goal is to become confident, comfortable, and able to communicate smoothly. Let's take a closer look at what that involves. One of the key things we often forget when practicing is to focus on real conversations. We all know that feeling of learning lots of vocabulary or grammar rules and then finding ourselves stuck when we have to speak to someone in English. That happens because we've spent a lot of time studying the language, but not enough time practicing how it's used in real-life conversations. So, let's break down a couple of ways to practice in real-life situations. First, try to put yourself in situations where you can use English in a natural way. If you live in an English-speaking country, that might be easier because you can speak with people around you all the time. But even if you don't, there are still plenty of ways to practice real conversations.
Yes, and one way to do that is by joining online conversation groups. There are so many platforms where you can meet language learners and native speakers who are happy to chat with you. Even if the conversations are simple at first, they are a great way to get comfortable with speaking. You don't need to worry about making mistakes. Most people will appreciate the effort you're putting into learning.
Exactly. And I think one of the things people sometimes struggle with when speaking in English is the fear of making mistakes. But let me tell you, mistakes are a natural part of the learning process. It's through mistakes that we really learn. Don't be afraid to speak up even if it's just a short sentence. Every time you try, you get better. In fact, the more you practice speaking, the less you'll worry about making mistakes because you'll realize that it's all part of the journey. Another tip is to focus on listening actively. Listening is just as important as speaking, but often we think of it as something we do passively. We listen to a podcast or watch a show in English, but our mind might wander and we don't pay close attention. To improve your listening skills, try listening actively. This means focusing deeply on the sounds and the structure of the language. For example, try to follow the conversation without subtitles first, and then go back and see if you understood everything correctly. You could also try to predict what someone will say next based on the context. This helps train your brain to think in English, which is a big part of becoming fluent.
That's right. And listening actively doesn't mean just listening to words. It also means paying attention to how people say things. You know, things like tone, rhythm, And even body language can tell you a lot about what someone is trying to communicate. If you're watching a movie, pay attention to how the characters speak. Notice how their tone changes when they're happy, angry, or surprised. This is something that can really help you sound more natural when speaking. You can practice mimicking their tone and rhythm, and it will help you sound more fluent and confident.
Another fantastic way to improve listening is to focus on different accents and speeds of English. Native English speakers come from all over the world, and they speak in many different ways. For example, British English sounds different from American English, and people from different regions of these countries speak English differently too. So, if you're only listening to one type of English, it might make things harder when you hear something new. To get around this, try listening to different types of English. You can listen to podcasts from people in different countries or watch movies from different regions. This will expose you to a variety of accents and help you become more adaptable to different ways people speak.
Yes, exposure to different accents is key. It will help you feel more comfortable when you encounter people from different parts of the world. Imagine traveling to an English-speaking country and not understanding anyone because they have an accent you're not used to. That can be really frustrating, but if you practice with different accents, you'll be much more prepared. Now, let's talk about something else that can really help your speaking and listening skills engagement. I know it might sound simple, but actively engaging with the content you're listening to can make a huge difference. For example, if you're watching a show, don't just watch it for entertainment. Try to focus on the vocabulary and phrases that are used. Pause the show if needed, and repeat what you hear. You can even take notes on new words or expressions that you want to use in your own conversations. The more you engage with the content, the more you'll remember and understand it.
Exactly. And let's not forget about the importance of learning phrases, not just individual words. This is a big secret to sounding more fluent. In real conversations, we don't just use single words. We use phrases and expressions that go together. So, when you're practicing speaking, try to learn phrases that native speakers often use. For example, instead of just learning the word hungry, you could learn a phrase like I'm starving, or I could eat a horse. These phrases sound more natural and will help you sound more like a native speaker.
Great point. And the beauty of learning phrases is that they often help with listening, too. If you know a certain phrase, you'll be able to recognize it quickly when someone else says it. This makes it easier for you to understand conversations because you don't have to think about every single word. It's all about patterns. The more phrases you learn, the more you'll start hearing these patterns in real conversations.
That's right. And as you practice these phrases, try using them in your own speech. Even if it feels awkward at first, using these expressions will help you sound more confident and fluent. Now, remember, fluency is not something that happens overnight. It takes time and effort, but with regular practice and a focus on speaking and listening in natural situations, you'll see progress. So, to sum it up, here are a few things to keep in mind. Practice speaking regularly, listen actively, pay attention to different accents, engage with the content, and learn useful phrases. By focusing on these strategies, you'll start to notice a difference in your fluency. The goal is to be comfortable speaking and understanding English, and with consistent effort, you will get there. Keep practicing, and don't forget to have fun along the way.
Absolutely. And you know what's really cool about mistakes? They help you notice patterns in the language that you might not have realized before. For example, you might say something wrong, and then someone will correct you. When you hear the correct version, it will stick in your mind more strongly than if you had simply read it in a book. It's like learning through experience. When you make a mistake, try to think about why it happened. Did you forget a word? Did you use the wrong verb tense? Maybe you misheard something. Reflecting on your mistakes helps you avoid making the same ones again in the future. And don't be afraid to ask for feedback. Asking a teacher or a language partner to correct you is a great way to understand where you can improve.
Exactly. And remember, the best way to improve is by practicing regularly, making mistakes, and learning from them. So, every time you speak or listen to English, see it as an opportunity to improve, even if you don't get everything right. Just keep going and be kind to yourself. Now, let's move on to another important part of improving fluency: building your confidence. Confidence is a big factor in becoming fluent. Have you ever noticed how some people can speak with so much confidence, even if they don't know every word? That's because confidence makes a huge difference in how you express yourself. When you're confident, you're more likely to take risks, speak more, and ask questions when you don't understand something.
Exactly, and when you're confident, people are more likely to understand you, even if your grammar isn't perfect or you don't know every word. Confidence allows you to keep the conversation flowing, even if you have to pause and think for a second. It's about being okay with not being perfect. Remember, nobody speaks perfectly all the time, not even native speakers. What matters is that you're communicating clearly and comfortably. So how do you build your confidence? One of the best ways is by speaking more, even if you feel nervous. The more you speak, the more confident you'll become. Start with simple conversations and gradually work your way up to more complicated topics. The more you practice, the more comfortable you will feel. And don't forget, it's okay to ask for help. If you don't understand something, just ask the person to repeat it or explain it. People appreciate it when you're trying your best to communicate.
Exactly. And another way to build confidence is to celebrate your progress. When you start noticing that you're understanding more or speaking more comfortably, take a moment to feel proud of yourself. Every step you take, no matter how small, is a sign of improvement. For example, maybe you're now able to watch a movie in English without needing subtitles, or maybe you've had a conversation in English for 10 minutes without feeling nervous. Those are huge accomplishments, and even if you don't reach your goals immediately, every time you practice and push yourself, you're getting closer. Remember, language learning is a journey. It's not about reaching perfection, it's about continuous improvement. So, celebrate those small victories. Now, let's talk a little bit more about the importance of consistency. When it comes to fluency, being consistent with your practice is one of the most important things you can do. Fluency doesn't come from practicing once a week or only when you feel like it. It comes from showing up every day, even if it's just for a few minutes.
That's such a great point. Consistency is key to making steady progress. Think about it like building a muscle at the gym. You don't get stronger by working out once in a while. You need to keep working out regularly, even if it's just for a short time each day. The same goes for language learning. Try to incorporate English into your daily life, even if you're only practicing for 10 minutes a day. You can listen to a podcast while you're cooking, repeat phrases when you're walking, or write a short journal entry in English. The more often you expose yourself to the language, the quicker you'll improve.
Exactly. And I understand that life can get busy. It's hard to find hours to study English every day, but consistency doesn't mean you have to study for long periods of time. Even short, daily practice can make a big difference over time. The key is to make it a part of your routine, just like brushing your teeth or having a meal. If you can dedicate just 10 to 15 minutes a day to speaking or listening to English, that's already a huge step forward. Another trick is to set small goals for yourself. Maybe your goal is to learn 5 new words a day or to have a 5-minute conversation in English. Having these small, achievable goals can help keep you motivated and on track.
And it's important to remember that fluency isn't a race. There's no need to rush. Each learner has their own pace, and that's completely fine. Focus on your personal journey and celebrate the progress you make. So, if you make a mistake, or if you feel like you're not moving fast enough, don't worry, keep going, and be patient with yourself.
Yes, just keep practicing and keep showing up. Fluency will come, but it requires time and consistent effort. And remember, It's not about being perfect. It's about being able to communicate comfortably and clearly. So, if you can express your ideas in English and understand others, you are already fluent in the most important ways. As we wrap up part 3, I want to encourage all of you to stay consistent, be confident, and always keep practicing. Don't let mistakes hold you back. Use them as stepping stones towards fluency. Keep believing in yourself and the process. You're already on the right path, and we're so proud of you for working so hard to improve your English.
That's right, Agnes. Staying motivated is one of the biggest challenges when learning a language, but it's also one of the most important parts of the process. Motivation can come from many different places. For some people, the goal is to travel and speak confidently in English-speaking countries. For others, the motivation might be to pass a language test, get a better job, or even connect with family and friends who speak English. No matter what your personal goal is, it's important to remind yourself of why you're learning English in the first place.
Exactly. And while big goals are great, I encourage you to break them down into smaller, more achievable steps. For example, if your long-term goal is to be fluent in English, that might feel like a huge task. But if you break it down into smaller goals like improving your listening skills this month or learning 10 new words every week, you can see your progress more clearly. Each of those smaller steps will bring you closer to your big goal, and they will help you stay motivated along the way.
Yes, setting smaller goals is key. And another powerful way to stay motivated is by celebrating your achievements, no matter how small. Maybe you finally understood a movie in English without subtitles, or maybe you had a 30-minute conversation with someone in English. Take a moment to celebrate these wins. Recognizing and celebrating even the smallest progress will give you the boost you need to keep going. One way to do this is by keeping a journal of your progress. Write down what you've learned, the challenges you faced, and how you overcame them. When you look back on that journal months from now, you'll see how much you've grown, and that can be so motivating.
I love that idea, Jasper. Keeping a journal is such a wonderful way to track your progress and stay motivated. It's also important to enjoy the process of learning. The more you enjoy the language, the easier it becomes to stay motivated. So, try to find things that excite you in English. Whether it's watching your favorite shows, reading books you enjoy, or listening to music in English, do what makes learning fun. The more fun you have, the more motivated you'll feel to keep going. And if you're feeling frustrated or overwhelmed at times, remember that everyone goes through that. Even the most fluent English speakers have moments when they struggle or make mistakes. What matters is that you keep going and you don't give up. It's okay to have challenging days. That's just part of the journey. But each time you push through those challenges, you become stronger, more resilient, and closer to your goal.
Exactly, motivation doesn't always have to come from big, exciting things. Sometimes it's about the small, everyday actions. Even on days when you don't feel like studying or practicing, just remembering why you're doing it can help push you forward. If you find yourself getting discouraged, remind yourself that every time you learn something new, every time you practice, you're getting closer to your goal. And sometimes, it's the little things like confidently ordering food in English at a restaurant or being able to understand a conversation with a friend that can be the most rewarding. Another tip is to create a learning routine. Having a set routine can help keep you on track. For example, you could decide to spend 20 minutes a day practicing English. You could focus on listening one day, speaking the next, and then learning new vocabulary the following day. A regular routine helps build habits, and habits are what will carry you through in the long term.
That's such a great point about routines. Establishing a learning schedule is incredibly helpful for staying consistent. And the beauty of routines is that they don't have to be rigid. You can adjust them based on your life, but having something to keep you on track will give you a sense of direction. Also, routines help to make English feel like a natural part of your life rather than something you do only once in a while, and before you know it, English will feel as natural to you as your native language. Now, one last thing I'd like to mention is the importance of connecting with others who are also learning English. Surrounding yourself with a community can be a huge source of motivation and support. Whether it's joining a language exchange group, participating in online English forums, or even connecting with other learners on social media, being part of a community can remind you that you're not alone on this journey. It can also provide you with new resources, tips, and encouragement when you need it.
I completely agree. Being part of a supportive community makes such a difference. Not only can you learn from others, but you can also share your own experiences and celebrate each other's progress. Having a group of people who are learning along with you makes the journey more fun and less isolating. Plus, you can help each other out when you're stuck, exchange resources, and share tips for making the learning process easier and more enjoyable. As we come to the end of our conversation today, I want to remind you that becoming fluent in English is all about consistent practice, being confident, learning from mistakes, and staying motivated. It's a long process, but it's absolutely worth it. Keep challenging yourself, keep pushing forward, and remember, you're making amazing progress every single day.
Absolutely, Jasper. It's been such a pleasure sharing all of these tips with everyone today. Remember, English fluency is within your reach, and with the right mindset and consistent effort, you'll get there. Stay motivated, be patient with yourself, and never forget how far you've come. We believe in you. We'd like to thank all of you who've listened to this podcast. We hope you feel inspired to keep working towards your goals and continue improving your English. You're doing fantastic, and every step counts. On behalf of Jasper and myself, we want to wish you the very best of luck in your language learning journey. Keep practicing, keep improving, and most importantly, enjoy the process.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you again for listening, and we hope to see you in the next one. Take care, and best of luck on your English learning adventure.
Goodbye, everyone, and best wishes on your journey.